Most of us don't really place that much of an importance on stress management. It seems kind of intangible. It's something you don't really see that often. I mean, weight you can see. Low energy you can feel. Crappy sleep? Yeah, that's pretty reflective in daily life. But what about this stress management stuff? What of an impact does it have on actually how you look, like in terms of your weight? And is there any real strong link? So you might be surprised here. I dug up half a dozen studies on how stress impacts health and in particular weight. And in almost every study they found a very clear-cut correlation between how stressed you are and how much weight you gain. So in the first study, over 5,000 participants were analyzed from 2000 to 2004, and they wanted to see the relationship between stress and their body mass index. So among the people that maintained or gained weight, the individuals with the high levels of perceived stress experienced a 0.2 kg greater change in BMI compared to those people with low stress. So a 0.2 kg increase in weight compared to the people with low stress. Also, the people that had greater than 2 or 3 stressful life events had a 0.13 kg and a 0.26 kg greater increase in BMI compared to people with none. So these relationships also differed by the age, their smoking, and what BMI they started at. Also, the people with multiple sources of stress, obviously, were at the greatest risk of weight gain. Now, in another study done at a university on 71 participants, they wanted to measure their cortisol secretion, so the stress hormone, their eating behaviors, and their BMI changes based on stress. So here's what the researchers actually found about this study. So 40 of these participants had actually gained weight. The average was 5.5 pounds. 19 actually lost weight. 2.5 pounds was the average, and 12 had the exact same weight. What's interesting here is that their BMI, their cortisol secretions, their binging behavior, depression, and anxiety all increased significantly. But what's interesting is that the change in daily cortisol secretion, so the amount of daily stress, significantly predicted the change in their body mass index. However, how well the person coped with stress changed that relationship. So in other words, even though all of the women saw an increase in stress, anxiety, and even depression, not all of them gained weight, and that was up to the individual. So stress made people more prone to this, but it depended on how they actually dealt with it. Now, in a third study done on over 7,000 British civil servants, they wanted to assess the exact same thing. What was the relationship between stress and job demands and weight gain? Now, here's what I find kind of interesting. The relationship between work stress and weight gain in men was dependent on how the original person's body was at the start. So if the person was lean at the beginning, despite being stressed, when they would get stressed and anxious, they wouldn't eat as much. But a person that was already overweight, when they got stressed and anxious, they would eat more. And a person that was of a normal weight would be somewhere in between. So in the leanest group, the thinnest group, the high job stress and the low job control were associated with weight loss by follow-up. Whereas among the people in the highest BMI, stress indicators were associated with weight gain. Now I find this also interesting because each of us also responds to stress differently. Some people don't eat. They get anxious, they get nervous, they get a tight stomach. Some people, they binge eat. So this is where it comes down to each of us actually knowing ourselves, knowing what happens when we get stressed, and setting up our own safeguards to prevent that from happening. Now here's the thing. You probably already know this to be true in your own life because you know when you're stressed, you can feel it. You don't feel good when you're stressed. You feel out of control. You want to rip your hair out. You want to eat things, or maybe you just want to go in bed and sleep. Stress, there's no doubt there's a direct relationship between it altering how we use food. And we know that food functions a lot like a drug. So food produces real, physiological, measurable relief in the brain, just like taking a drug does. We know that. Studies have repeatedly confirmed it. Now, whereas most of us may just think looking and feeling really good is just about eating less and moving more, this dumb diet advice, this kind of gives a whole new meaning to the whole mind, body, spirit. This is about mind, right? Are you psychologically dealing with the stress effectively of your daily life? I mean, we've all got it. But in your health regime, and even if it's just a weight loss regime, are you setting up safeguards to emotionally and psychologically keep yourself in the game, not get psyched out, and not get stressed out, which may lead to binge eating or even weight loss if you're already thin? So your tiny habit for today is pretty simple. Understand that for the average person, stress is directly related to weight gain and binging and sugar cravings and everything else, but that you as an individual need to figure out your own unique coping strategy. So maybe you do eat more, maybe you eat less, but how can you set up safeguards in your own life to deal with the stress better and to make dealing with stress, a primary concern in your health regime. And just like the researchers found, there really is a pretty straight correlation for the average person between how stressed you are and how much weight you gain. And that's based on how stressful it is and for how long. So I hope that helps inject a little bit of mind, body, spirit into your health regime. Take some time, leave a comment below. I want to know what you use as far as like mind, spirit goes, because we usually address body, but we forget mind and spirit. What do you do to kind of nurture those two things? Tell me below. If you're on YouTube, make sure you go on over to modernhealthmonk.com. I've got a real food weight loss habits guide for you there, and a ton of other bonuses and goodies you will only find on email there. Go ahead, also click subscribe. You'll get the next video as soon as it's out, and I'll see you next time.